Hi, I'm Luminousz Star. Welcome to the channel. Today's video, seeking validation from a covert narcissist is a waste of time. Today's video, please share and like. And also, I want to thank you for your time in advance, especially my stars. Mwah. On that note, thank you, my stars, for your support, also for your subscriptions. Everyone who's visiting for the first time, welcome to Luminousz Star, and don't forget to scroll down, select that subscription button, and become a part of the Star family. Please check the description box below for further details to today's video. First point, actually topics of discussion, the quiet crazy making of the covert narcissist. Second topic, possible challenges after going no contact from narcissists and those with a cluster B personality. Next topic, choosing to pick yourself up and thrive forward in order to accept support. And the last topic will be tools, references, and resources. First point, covert narcissists can also have traits of overt narcissism, which can become a part of the unpleasant experience of the crazy making. Make no mistake, many covert narcissists are crafty with camouflaging his or her dysfunctional behaviors from the public, while mistreating those who may be considered primary source supply. Covert narcissists do not validate others, yet are overly dependent upon them for source supply. So one of the things that covert narcissists do is that they are very underhanded when it comes to their crazy making. Part of the crazy making is that they are overly dependent upon those that they misuse, the people that they consider source supply. So on one hand, the covert narcissist is overly dependent, and on the other, they will deny that by behaving like they are so superior to those that they deem source supply. Let's move on. Dysfunctional behavior patterns of covert narcissists. They can be controlling. Sometimes they do sabotage others, not just themselves, but usually they try to sabotage others, especially around the holidays, anniversaries, and birthdays. They make subtle insults. A lot of covert narcissists, they are usually very underhanded. So when they insult others, sometimes they can be sarcastic, and then other times they will insult others in a subtle way. They like to smear campaign and character assassinate. Extreme forgetfulness, silent treatment, withhold affection and positive reinforcements. Poor reciprocation of love and care. Passive-aggressive, distant, avoidant, underhanded, gaslight techniques. A lot of covert narcissists don't like to, have their mask slip, okay? Because they like to do their dirty deeds behind the scenes and quietly and secretly. So gaslighting techniques is one of their faves. This way they can slowly try to drive other people mad and at the same time look like they're saints. And they look like they're innocent. So this is one of the, in my opinion, the gaslight technique is one of the covert narcissist's favorite dysfunctional behavior patterns. Or we can say their tactics for source supply. Okay, they can also be histrionic, deceptive, manipulative, fault-finding, grudgeful, and emotionally immature. Next point. Many often overlook the signs of addiction in covert narcissists, such as their obsession with playing the victim card, while having a strong attraction to suffering, drama, and chaos. Some covert narcissists will intentionally place themselves in a hostile situation, subjecting themselves and their children to abuse and possible fatality, while having a strong sense of entitlement to sympathy from others. So this is a deeper look into the crazy making of the covert narcissist in their mad world. They like to go ahead and place themselves. One of the things that they do that I find highly disturbing is that they will intentionally place themselves within a hostile environment, a very hostile situation. And if they have children, they will also place their children in harm's way, all for source supply, all the while having a strong sense of entitlement. So you have the covert narcissist, if you can picture it. The covert narcissist places his or herself intentionally in a hostile situation. If they have children, they will place their children in a very hostile situation, placing them in harm's way. Many covert narcissists, maybe not all of them, many of them have this type of obsession and addiction of playing their victim card. This way again, so they can get the source supply. Sympathy, empathy, and compassion is often entitled but not appreciated by covert narcissists. Illness, death, age, gender, and dysfunctional circumstances are often used as excuses by covert narcissists to justify their outrageous dysfunctional behavior patterns. The vicious cycle of the covert narcissist is that he or she tries to figure out how to become a part of some type of dysfunctional circumstance, play the victim card, and then attempt to guilt trip others into feeling sympathy for him or her without critically thinking about the circumstances and how the covert narcissist chooses to resolve their issues, or those issues, pardon me. So this can be a vicious cycle that the covert narcissist sets up, and they just draw other people in. They suck other people into that vicious cycle, because the covert narcissists, again, they do these things underhandedly. That's part of the crazy making. They're very secretive about how they use their tactics for source supply. They play the victim card, then they attempt to guilt trip others into feeling sympathy for him or her, okay, without critically thinking about the circumstances and how the covert narcissist is used to resolve those issues. So other people will not critically think once they are drawn in. And I'm not scolding, I'm just saying how a lot of us get duped. When the covert narcissist sucks us in, most of us are duped. Okay, so don't feel so badly about this. Instead of asking him or her how they tend to resolve the issues, a lot of people get sucked in due to being emotional. They feel sorry for the covert narcissist. And once they're sucked in and they're all emotional, they're less likely to critically think about how the covert narcissist got themselves into that situation in the first place, and what are they doing to get themselves out of it. In other words, are they resolving their own issues? So it's a very vicious cycle that the covert narcissist usually is a mastermind at. After the covert narcissist receives the source supply from others, he or she immediately seeks to repeat the vicious cycle in order to obtain more supply from as many sources as possible. This seems to be an obsession as well as an addiction of the covert narcissist. Due to trauma bonding, it can be very challenging to overcome the adverse effects or aftermath of narcissistic abuse. Obtaining a strong support base will more than likely become very important in the healing process. So due to trauma bonding, it is very challenging to overcome the adverse effects of narcissistic abuse, because the covert narcissists, again, they are masterminds at keeping themselves, I guess, like in a shadow or in the shadows. They're not easily detected by others. When we're talking about trauma bonding, and this is usually due to narcissistic abusive parents, and not all the time, but I'm going to go ahead and use that as an example. If the parent is a covert narcissist, then I'm going to go ahead and say the trauma bonding in that case can be very difficult for the child to overcome. Not impossible, just more difficult, more challenging, because we're talking about a parent. The child naturally wants to be connected to the parent. Well, they are connected, but they want the great relationship. They want the good relationship. The trauma bonding sets in when that child realizes that they cannot trust their parent, who is a covert narcissist. Most children will find that traumatizing. And then they're bonded to the parent, who's a covert narcissist. So there you have it, trauma bonding. It is very difficult for children or for adult children of narcissists to overcome trauma bonding. Sometimes they are middle-aged before they even start to work through this, the trauma bonding, that is. But it is not impossible. So I want to go ahead and really put that out. Even though it's challenging, it is still worth working through. It's still worth having that support base. Most likely adult children of a covert narcissist will be working through trauma bonding. They're going to be looking to undo that or to escape that. Okay, it's very common If one is only coping, then one is not healing. Therefore, he or she may not be thriving forward at all. Rather, they may be in a sunken place. After going no contact from the narcissist, some people experience more nightmares, sleep issues, anxiety, and anger than before. This usually does not last for a long period of time. It is very common that those who have a covert narcissistic parent, after they go no contact, sometimes the things that they were dealing with before, such as anxiety and anger, it tends to increase right after they go no contact. This is quite natural. It's normal, it's natural, it's common. Some people, unfortunately, they tend to give up on their healing process because of this. They think that they're backtracking. They're not. It is quite natural that one responds to a traumatic event. Having a covert narcissist as a parent, I think most people will say that's a traumatic event. That's a traumatic thing. So after a person goes no contact, it is not surprising that they will have more nightmares, that they will have more sleep issues, more anxiety, and they will have more anger issues than before. But it usually doesn't last for a long time. It may last for a couple of months. It may last for 6 months. But you really can't put a timetable on it. But I wanted to share this with you all from personal experience. Right after you go no contact, expect some of the things that you went through, such as depression and anxiety, anger. Expect those things to increase just for a little while after you go no contact. Think about the time when you was in the relationship with the covert narcissist. You really didn't have time to process much of anything. This is also why a lot of adult children who have a narcissistic parent, they are well into their adulthood before they start processing that trauma, as well as working through it. Okay, next point. Oh, possible challenges after going no contact. All right, anxiety, depression, mismanaged anger, misplaced anger, flashbacks, nightmares, irritability. Okay, so let's talk about the misplaced anger. Misplaced anger is when people tend to take their anger out on other people who have nothing to do with the trauma or the narcissistic abuse. This is common, and some people are able to salvage those healthy relationships, and some people, unfortunately, are not. Misplaced anger is when a person takes out their anger on others who have nothing to do with their trauma and have nothing to do with the narcissistic abuse, instead of dealing with the narcissist directly. So that's misplaced anger. Now I'll go a little bit into mismanaged anger. Mismanaged anger is when a person has had anger for a long period of time, and then it built to the point where there is resentment, or it has become stronger. Now a person is dealing with resentment. So that's mismanaged anger, because they didn't initially manage their anger in the first place. When a person manages their anger, that means that they are constructively working through it. And 9 times out of 10 chances, they're dealing with the person who has influenced them to become angry, such as the covert narcissist. They're not hiding their anger. They're not internalizing the anger, whereas it turns into depression. They're not holding it all in. They're not stuffing it down. This is what a lot of us do. So that's mismanaged anger. Flashbacks, nightmares, irritability. Sometimes irritability comes about when a person is easily annoyed. So these are some of the challenges that a person will go through after going no contact. Another thing that happens after a person goes no contact is they will become easily annoyed. Therefore, they will become easily irritable, and seemingly for no reason. They're not going to be able to really place their anger. So the irritability goes right into the misplaced anger as well as the mismanaged anger. I probably should have put that right up under, I probably should have put irritability right up under these two, because irritability again goes right into both of these. It's a byproduct of both of them. Okay, let's move forward. Possible challenges after going no contact. Let's continue. Sexual dysfunction. In females, an inability to orgasm, inability to become sexually aroused, and painful intercourse. That's sexual dysfunction in females. In males, the sexual dysfunction is reaching orgasm too slowly or not at all. Reduced interest in sex and erectile dysfunction. Promiscuity. Addiction. Obsessive disorders. When we're talking about obsessive disorders, we are also talking about OCD, or obsessive compulsive disorders. I think many of you have heard of that, but that is one of the things that some people will deal with after going no contact, or they will notice that they are dealing with obsessive disorder. Okay, they're not going to notice it while they're in the relationship with the covert narcissist. I mean, some will realize it, but most do not know this until after the relationship with the covert narcissist is over. Sometimes this happens, the obsessive disorder will occur because while a person, especially if this is a child, they are trying to please the covert narcissist. They're trying to please, they're overcompensating. Okay, they're going way out of their way trying to please this covert narcissist. So obsessive disorders can occur. Let's continue with the points. Most will find it very challenging to find the support base to help them deal with adverse effects of narcissistic abuse due to emotional, mental, and psychological challenges. One can begin his or her support base by drawing up the blueprint to their support base. Drawing up the blueprint helps one to figure out what and who may be best to become a part of his or her support base. In a lot of my videos, I talk about how important the support base is. From personal experience, I can tell you it is not only a must, it is a game changer. The support base at some point during your healing is going to be necessary. I wouldn't advise anyone to do this alone, to try to deal with the fact that they've had a relationship which was very dysfunctional with the covert narcissist, because that's a trauma that's usually life-altering. So that's nothing to deal with alone. Okay, so I advise again to get that support base. The first step to a support base is to draw up the blueprint. And that can help a person to figure out what and who can be a part of their support base. Adult children of narcissists are sometimes encouraged to team up with others and build trustworthy, healthy relationships by working a support base. When one chooses to pick his or herself up and commit to their healing process, it becomes possible to successfully thrive forward past narcissistic abuse by way of an effective support base. Okay, let's move forward. One of the main obstacles will be, and often is, trust. During dysfunctional relationships with narcissists and those with a cluster personality, one's trust was violated repeatedly, possibly over a long period of time. Due to processing and working through layers of trauma, possibly since childhood, when one demonstrates being trustworthy to those who also have abandonment issues, trust may not be as easily established. Another common thing that occurs is the trust issue. Especially those of us who have been in dysfunctional relationships with covert narcissists. The trust issue will be there, and it will be a little extra to try to work through. It will be a little extra challenging, that is, to work through that trust issue, which is understandable because the trust was violated repeatedly, more than likely over a long period of time. And when you're talking about a covert narcissist, you better believe it, the trust issue will be there. The trust issue is going to be a little bit challenging to work through, but not impossible. Becoming open to receiving support will be a major challenge for some due to past repeated trust violations by the covert narcissist and the so-called loved ones of the traumatized. So if a person has had a relationship with a covert narcissist, and let's just say there are others that he or she had relationships with who were so-called loved ones, but yet they're not covert narcissists. their trust issue, again, they're going to have the trust issue because the trust was violated repeatedly over a long period of time, and it was repeated by several people that that person should have been able to trust, such as a family member. So if one of the family members is a covert narcissist and there are other family members who are not narcissists, yet they violated the trust of a child, this person will have a very difficult time trusting anyone. Okay, they're going to have a little bit of a challenge when it comes to the support base. It's not impossible. It is understandable, though, that they're going to have just a little bit of an issue with the trust. Okay, and this is understandable. But I mention this because I think this is one of the things that's overlooked when people are reaching out to get support. It is very important to work with somebody that you trust, someone who understands that the trust has been violated over and over, and from more than one person, not just the covert narcissist. However, I do know that when it comes to covert narcissists, the trust violation will be there, simply due to their tactics for source supply. So the trust will be violated. Anyone who has a support base, I just think it's just best to have somebody in that support base that understands a little bit of background of why the trust issue, why the trust issue is there. Because of the background, because this person had their trust repeatedly violated from several different sources, not just the covert narcissist. And I think that everybody in the support base, I just think that they need to understand that. It would be great for them to understand that. So, but again, this is why we can always communicate. We can communicate with the mentor, the life coach, the clergyman, the clergywoman, or whoever it is that's in our support base. I just think it's very important that they understand that, why the trust issue is there, and why that's one of the main challenges for those of us who have had a cluster B personality and a narcissist in our lives. The trust issue is just one of those raw sore spots, and it tends to not heal very easily. And I think people that are a part of our support base just has to, they have to understand that. And to know a little bit of the background would just be the icing on the cake. It is possible that some individuals have been groomed by the covert narcissist to fear and not trust others if they are not the covert narcissist, therefore influencing him or her to repeatedly invest in dysfunctional relationships while sacrificing themselves for those who have a predatory nature. Those who have had a covert narcissist in their life, they are being groomed to fear and not trust anyone else other than the covert narcissist. How about that one for a twist? But this is very common. So if this person who has had a covert narcissist in his or her life in the past, they are less likely to trust anyone who is not the covert narcissist or who has a predatory nature. Due to the grooming process of the covert narcissist, he or she is less likely, listen very carefully, he or she is less likely to trust anyone who is not the covert narcissist or who behaves in a predatory nature like the covert narcissist. This is often why a lot of people end up reinvesting over and over in dysfunctional relationships with those of a narcissist or a cluster B personality, because they have been groomed to fear and to not trust anyone that they can have a healthy relationship with. This is due to the grooming process. This is another highlightable point. A lot of people miss this one. This is one of the reasons why, again, they tend to keep having relationships with cluster B personalities and narcissists, because they were groomed. They were groomed to fear and not trust anyone that really will love him or her or have a healthy relationship with him or her. This clamor or outcry of distrust by those who have had relationships with covert narcissists is designed to ensure that the healthy relationships with those who have proven trustworthy to have very little chance of occurring. This is one way a covert narcissist continues to have influence in the lives of those who have or have had dysfunctional relationships with him or her. So there's an outcry of distrust by those who have had a covert narcissist in their life. And that outcry is designed to ensure that the healthy relationships will not happen. Okay, so I pause with that one because that's very deep. Due to the grooming process of a covert narcissist, the person who's a source supply, long after the relationship with a covert narcissist is over, will continue to run the program of having dysfunctional relationships with others who are like the covert narcissist, such as those who have a predatory nature. Their clamor or outcry of distrust is designed to ensure that they have very little chance of having healthy relationships with others. I don't know about you all, but that is very deep. And when I had that epiphany, yeah, it sobered me up and it was a game changer. Because that means that some of us who have had a cluster B personality or a narcissist in our life for a long period of time, especially if we were children when that dysfunctional relationship started, we were groomed to fear and to not trust others who have already proven themselves to us as trustworthy. Again, I don't know about you all that's listening and watching, but that one is a big epiphany for me, even to this day. Let's move forward. Tool number 1, accept that you cannot change the covert narcissist. More than likely, you will not receive support, validation, or closure by pursuing him or her. Acceptance can be very empowering during the grieving process. Tool number 2, build and work your support base with purpose. As you grow, your support base expands. Tool number 3, invest in yourself by increasing your knowledge on narcissism, childhood trauma, dysfunctional behavior patterns, and how to cope and deal with each. Let's go to the first tool. Accept that you cannot change the covert narcissist. Actually, none of us can change anyone else. And when we're talking about a covert narcissist, yeah, their personality is fixed. It's a personality disorder that is fixed. So it is very unlikely that they will change ever. And as far as like obtaining closure and validation, forget it. In order to obtain validation and closure, you're going to have to learn how to do that for yourself. And then those who are in your support base, they can provide that as well. But you have to do it for yourself first. Your support base is actually designed, or ought to be designed, to help you to do that, to learn how to trust yourself, to learn how to obtain closure by your own terms and your own means, and to obtain validation for yourself first. A great support base will teach you the tools to get that going. So pursuing the narcissist or the covert narcissist is a mistake, because they will use that for source supply. Just by you pursuing him or her, they're going to use that. Believe it or not, they will use that. So acceptance can be very empowering. To pursue the narcissist and cluster B personality is a mistake, because more than likely, the narcissist and cluster B personality, they're going to toy with you first, and then they're still not going to help you to gain the closure, and they're still not going to provide you validation. This is often why when people pursue the narcissist and cluster B personality for validation, support, closure, or whatever else that they're looking for, yeah, it's a mistake. It's usually something that sets him or her back in their healing process. This is another way the cluster B personality and narcissists likes to pull the rug out from under people. They set them up and they bait them first. Then they pull the rug out. And then that person who was looking for the validation, the support, and the closure, they're still walking away empty-handed. And they're hurt and disappointed. And they're probably angry too. So this is often why I say this is a mistake to even pursue the narcissist for anything. It's usually best to cut your losses and thrive forward and focus on your own healing. Second tool, build and work your support base with a purpose. Absolutely. Because as you grow, your support base will expand. Matter of fact, a great support base will help you to see that. You'll be able to see yourself growing and your support base expanding. You'll be able to see that. A great support base will help you to see that as well as feel it. Okay? The third tool, invest in yourself by increasing your knowledge on narcissism, childhood trauma, dysfunctional behavior patterns, and how to cope with and deal with each. Again, the support base should have tools to help you to do this. But first, you have to invest in yourself. And that's another way to invest in yourself, is to increase your knowledge. This is why people go to college sometimes. They invest in themselves. They're trying to further their education. They want a higher education or what have you. So just look at it that way. Invest in yourself and work your support base. Increase your knowledge on narcissism. Just try to look at it as an investment in yourself. Okay? All right. Let's move on. References and resources. Please check these out in the description box below. It may take a little bit longer than 10 minutes to look through this. There is a book here entitled Terrifying Transferences. This is the book that I'm reading right now. And I did mention that I'm thinking about doing a live stream and have this book as the discussion. Now, some of you may be able to find this in your local library, but I placed the link here below to get you started on trying to locate this book. All right. Video suggestions. There's a few here for you. At least 3 of these are my videos. 2 of these are definitions. Okay. All right. As you can see here, there's a lot of references and resources here. So this is why I mentioned it's probably going to take much more than 15 minutes to go through this. But of course, take your time and go through this. This is not a person's healing process. Is not a contest. So when we invest in ourselves and we educate ourselves about narcissism, it is definitely a great investment and one not to be rushed. Okay. So check these references and resources out, please, on your own time. Now, there is a live stream coming up, and I will be discussing this particular topic here. Until then, wherever you are, I wish you the very best. I'm Luminousz, and stay tuned for more vlogs as well as more videos.
Incubator of life. Through our lines